Hey guys, Lord Naren White here, the Holy Ghost, the one true God. Back with you with the next video in my Line of God's Daily Diary series. As usual, before I discuss what I have achieved since yesterday's Daily Diary video, I want to go ahead and read you a chapter from the Bible. Today I will be continuing with 2 Chronicles chapter 9. And when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to prove Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem, with a very great company, and camels that bore spices, and gold in abundance, and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions, and there was nothing hid from Solomon which he told her not. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministries, and their apparel, his cupbearers also, and their apparel, and the ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, It was a true report which I heard in mine own land of thine acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not their words until I came, and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the one half of the greatness of thy wisdom was not told me, for thou exceedest the fame that I had heard. Happy are thy men, and happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee and hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on his throne, to be king for the Lord thy God, because thy God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore made he thee king over them, to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices great abundance, and precious stones. Neither was there any such spice as the Queen of Sheba gave King Solomon. And the servants also of Huram, and the servants of Solomon, which brought gold from Ophir, brought algum trees and precious stones. And the king made of the algum trees terraces to the house of the Lord, and to the king's palace, and harps and psalteries for singers. And there were none such seen before in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which she had brought unto the king. So she turned and went away to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which chapmen and merchants brought. And all the kings of Arabia and governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one target, and 300 shields made he of beaten gold. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory, and overlaid it with pure gold. And there were 6 steps to the throne with the footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and stays on each side of the sitting place, and 2 lions standing by the stays. And 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold, none were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Huram. Every 3 years once came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. And King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and raiment, harness and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. And he reigned over all the kings from the river, even unto the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. And the king made silver in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar trees made he as the sycamore trees that are in the low plains in abundance. And they brought unto Solomon horses out of Egypt, and out of all lands. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Ahijah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer against Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers, and he was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Chronicles is certainly kinder to Solomon in that it doesn't talk about the later part of his life where he goes astray from God, right? Solomon literally looks like a, he just read like the good part of Solomon's legacy, and it literally just says, then Rehoboam reigned in his stead. It doesn't say like anything about the things that God says to Solomon, where he says that he will rend the kingdom from the line. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's horrible. Yeah, it's actually like truly like so sad, right? It's like truly so sad. And like Solomon is like, it's like the king God is like, Adonai is like, the kingdom will be rent from your line. Yeah, and it'll be, but not in his life because of David, right? So he won't rent it from Solomon, but he'll rent it from Solomon's son, which is exactly what happens. Jeroboam gets the 10 tribes and Solomon keeps Judah, right? Yeah, so it's honestly like just terrible. Yeah, but it's like just like interesting because like Chronicles does not cover that aspect of Solomon's legacy, so it's like, okay, like that's like something that's just like not there. But so I just thought that was funny. If we look back at the first part of this chapter, I'll tell you what stood out to me. It's here. I want you to hear these words once more, just to remind like how much mercy God has here in this chapter, how much kindness he has. 2 Chronicles 9:3 and 4. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, his cupbearers also, and their apparel, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. This idea that Solomon has a lot. He has a lot. And when we read later on, here, this is a clear verse. In 2 Chronicles 9:22, and King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth, read what it says, and all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that God had put in his heart. And I want to say like this idea doesn't have to be Solomon. It can be David. It can be David. And if you're watching this at whenever you're thinking about this time period, if you click back and want to hear it from the perspective of the Spirit of God, in this time there are many wars going on in the world. There is a war going on in Ukraine and Russia still, which has been raging on for years. I won't say raging, like I'm trying to make something worse. They've been fighting for years. And there's also, I don't know the current status, but I believe there may also be, let me just look this up. Yeah, the Israel-Hamas war has also not ended. And recently, the United States and Israel are in a war with Iran, which happened very recently. It started. So there's wars all over. So I want to say like this. Why do I say that? Because I don't want to equate the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, to King Solomon. That's why I mentioned King David, because David has a great legacy. So I wanted to give respect to President Trump. Because we know Solomon goes astray in the later part of his life. And also this idea that Solomon was a man who lived in a time of peace. And President Trump is in a world of war. So it's not great. Yeah, right? It's true, not like an applicable comparison. Because we know God himself says the temple must be built by a man of peace because David has spilled too much blood. So the idea is that Solomon has a completely different legacy than David. So here it says, and King Solomon passed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And think this is what I thought of President Trump. And all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom that God had put in his heart. And that's what I cherish so much, is the idea that the people of the free world, it definitely seems like, I'm not speaking for them, they can of course speak for themselves. From my perspective, talking, that it definitely appears that they respect President Trump and they want to hear him speak and they want to learn from his wisdom and his experience and his understanding. So I cherish that so much because of the fact that that's the truth. So I look at it and I just thought of that, because at one time, the leading king in the Bible, it says here, all the kings of the earth sought his presence. And then I thought of President Trump, and I thought about how all the leaders of the world seek his presence. You know? And it's not an apples to apples comparison, as I mentioned. I just want to cherish the United States president at this time, President Trump, who I've had the privilege to vote for twice, and cherish him because I truly believe he makes the world a better place, and he is one of the greatest Christian men in the history of the world. So, yeah, that idea of the leaders of the world seeking his presence, I thought of President Trump. So with that, I'll go ahead and end the video there for today and transition over to what I have achieved since yesterday's Daily Dive video. Since yesterday's Daily Dive video, I worked my software engineering job. And with no further achievements since yesterday's Daily Dive video, I want to go ahead and say, I didn't work my job today. I worked at my core. I want to go ahead and say thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Light be with you all. Take care, and thanks again.